Welcome to the Content Supply Podcast. I'm Dallin Need, and each episode we bring you an inspiring brand, creator, or message to help you discover how you can experience success in your business as we unpack stories and strategies about all things content and growing a successful brand. So this is just a whole discovery process for all of us. We feature a variety of different brands on the show, from entrepreneurs, entertainers, copywriters, marketers, coaches, athletes, to designers, filmmakers, photographers, and many more. All brand owners, all creators. So it's my belief, as with many others, that every company is a content company and has to be one to stay relevant and competitive. Because let's be honest, the internet is so full of brands that it can be very easy to get lost in the crowd. So quality and effective content really separates you. That's why Content Supply was created, to supply brands with ongoing custom content so they can engage with their customers by providing value, telling stories, and making more sales. And when we say content, I'm talking about video and audio and written or image, all and everything in between. All those. Content creation and building a business is really hard. You never finish the building and creating. Even after you experience some success, you have to keep going on the journey. Content Supply was created to be a resource, a community, and a solution to fill that large gap of content. So thanks for joining the show. Now let's get to the interview. So tell us a little bit about Adtention.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. So Adtention was started about a year and a half ago, and it was started by one of my classmates from college. I ended up going to the United States Military Academy at West Point, and one of my classmates had started the company, and it started really as an ad tech company. And now we like to think ourselves as a ad tech / martech company. We really believe the two different areas are coming together to become one. And the reason that he started Adtention is because he was at an ad network company that worked with brands and agencies in order to run campaigns for them, specifically with programmatic video. And they worked a lot of ad network to ad network. He was their director of operations. The company was very successful, and a few years ago it sold for over $30 million. So he stayed on as the director of operations for a full year. Afterwards, they had a 600-person sales team that they needed to kind of get up to speed on the product and the solution. And so he stayed on, and then once he left, he started Adtention. We really feel that we can help brands and agencies help their brands tell the brand story and increase brand recognition. So what we do specifically is we make sure that brands that have advertising videos, now we're talking short videos, usually 15 to 30 second videos, can get distributed online. So what we want is as many people that are interested in that brand to see that video. Now, how do we do that? We have lots of different types of integrations with data sources, but we don't want to just show that video to everybody on the internet. We want to show that video specifically to people that might be interested in the product or service that that brand focuses on. So for example, say you're in the market for an engagement ring. You're going to be engaged in the next 3 to 6 months. We're able to gather that data, whether it's demographic or location-based or behavioral-based, based on the internet. I think we have an integration with over 76 different data sources. And then we specifically target those individuals on the web, no matter where they're out on the web. So that could be on mobile web, just surfing their phones. It could be on their desktop. It could be on mobile app. It could even be through apps on connected TV or social media as well, specifically Facebook and Instagram. So utilizing that data, we really run targeted campaigns to make sure that these advertisers are having the best use of their advertising spend, and it's not wasted on, 12-year-old little boys playing a candy game app. They're obviously not going to be engaged for several years. So that's one example.
Well, and it sounds like, to sum that all up, it sounds like you guys basically tap into where some brand's audience would exist online, and you hyper focus on that area of the internet to get content, get their messaging, get their story in front of the audience, wherever they may be. And it's not just social. And I think so many brands focus on just social media, but there are so many other touch points that could be tapped into. And I think something like Attention, and why I wanted to pull you guys on the podcast, is because so much of the kind of the online entrepreneur world, the brand world, especially those who are starting out but who are doing fairly well, are finding most of their success on social media, because naturally that's where most audiences do live and spend their time, but also in other areas of the internet. You mentioned social media. You mentioned there's also OTT, right? OTT platforms as well. And so like including Amazon.
Well, there's Amazon
Fire
Prime,
Stick,
Roku, basically
Roku.
any of your smart TVs. But Down, you said something really interesting, and I know that we met at a video conference in California that was specific to advertisers and influencers. So what I mean by influencers is, and because you were at the conference, but people that really have built a following on social media. So whether it's YouTube or Facebook or something like that. And then advertisers were interested in utilizing those personalities because they had several million followers to maybe give a brand plug, right? And to bring brand awareness. So oftentimes advertisers are so focused on social media, but why limit yourself? That's my question to advertisers. Why limit yourself to just social media? Why not focus more on where you're actually serving this content to who you're serving the content to? So one of the questions that I get when brands or agencies want to work with us is, Shane, where is this content going to be shown? Specifically, what publisher are you going to go through? And by publisher, I mean website, right? So it can be CNN.com, FoxNews.com, ESPN.com, Yahoo.com, etc. And my question is, well, what is more important to you? Is it more important where that content is shown, or that the person viewing that content, regardless of where they're at on the internet or connected TV or mobile app or mobile web, if they have an interest in your product or service? So of course we can do something called creating white labels, where we list 100 websites and we say only serve ads to these websites. We can also create blacklists that say don't serve to these websites as well. But my argument is, for most campaigns, for most brands, it's usually more important to really serve those ads to the person that has shown the behavioral kind of footprint that we're looking for, or the geographic location or zip code that we're looking for that's specific to your product or to your company location, or where the products are being sold, or the demographics, women or pregnant women between the age of 25 and 35. So there's lots of different ways that we can target. I personally believe for most campaigns, it's more important who you target than where you target. But if you're just limiting to social media, you may be missing people that could be utilizing the web in a broader sense that aren't on social media, or that don't come across your social media channels.
Well, you also hit on something very interesting there too, in referencing the conference we did go to. One takeaway that I had from that conference that relates to what you just said was the demographic, or the audience that we tend to pinpoint, is oftentimes generalized to the platform that they live on. Let's say moms on Facebook. That's such a big reach of a niche you're trying to get to, versus honing in less on the platform and more on the specifics of like mothers, pregnant mothers who live in this area of the country. And I think it's a matter of specifying who your audience is exactly, and not necessarily what platform they're on every time. Wait, am I saying this how I want to say it? Hold on one second. I may be reversing. Do you remember I remember reversing the way I heard it. I think how was it said? It was.
What you're saying is it's more important or what I was saying is it's more important to focus on who you're serving the ads to, rather than where those ads are being seen.
Mm.
Now, of course, I do think, Dallin, you have to worry about brand safety, right? A lot of these companies, a lot of these agencies, a lot of these brands that we worked with have worked really hard for years to build up this brand and the respect that this brand brings to their customers. So, of course, you don't want it being shown on, like, say, adult content websites or websites that might go against your political leaning if it's a brand that can be affected in that way. So we do have integrations with kind of brand safety software, as well as software that makes sure that actual humans are seeing these video ads, because in the advertising space, and it's been this way for a few years, is there's a lot of fraud. So there's bots created that will go out and it'll act like they're watching these videos, and then you get served these impressions and you pay for these impressions when really a human never saw these videos. So what we try to do is really utilize and integrate with the top of the line anti-fraud and brand safety software that exists in order to make sure that, again, that marketing spend is best utilized and as many humans are seeing that as possible.
Yeah. I got auto sensor lights behind me. So regarding that too, what is your process to discover where those specific, I guess, areas of the internet that audiences do exist? Like, let's say kind of step one, you meet a brand who wants to use your advertising services. How do you fact find? How do you discover those areas of the internet?
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually a great question. So the first thing that we do is we have a conversation with the actual brand or agency. The reason that we do that is because nobody knows their brand or their customers as well as they do. So the first thing we do is say, well, who is your normal customer? What age range are they? What location are they? Etc. Beyond that, once we've had that conversation with them, because we've ran so many campaigns and because my team that actually launches and optimizes and monitors the campaigns from a week to week and month to month basis, and because we have over 57,000 different kinds of targeting data points, sometimes we'll think of something that they haven't. For example, we were in recent conversations with bariatric surgeons. Now, bariatric surgeons operate on the obese population. So I'm talking about gastric bypasses, gastric bands, sleeve gastrectomy, and lap bands. So one thing that they may not think of is what we could do is target people behaviorally that have recently searched for or bought products, for example, Jenny Craig, or any weight loss products. Or we could target people that have a propensity to look like they may have diabetes. Oftentimes diabetics are obese and have a high enough BMI that they would need bariatric surgery. So oftentimes we can come up with some creative targeting as well. And we usually start that targeting a little bit more like a shotgun approach. And then week to week we optimize and we look at, oh, wow, we're really seeing that mobile web's getting a higher click-through rate or higher view-through rate rather than mobile app or desktop or connected TV or social media. And so what we do is we optimize and we adjust that advertising spend to where we're having the best results. Which another question that I get is, well, how long do we really need to run our campaign? And that depends. You might be a nonprofit and you're having a big gala in February. So you may want to just run it for 3 months to get everybody to know about your gala. It's awareness. Maybe it's in the city of Denver. So you want it to everybody 18 and older in Denver. And then you want to run that for 3 months. We can retarget the people and see one video, send them a second video so that they're continuing to get your brand story. It's called sequential marketing. Sometimes we even have 3-4 videos. Say, for example, for a car dealership, we may send out the video, oh, F-150s, there's going to be a sale. Okay, so people have seen that video. We can actually tag those people that have seen that video and retarget them now with a series of videos that say, oh, well, you may not have actually come into the dealership because you thought the APR was too high, or you're afraid you won't be able to get approved for the loan. And we don't actually say this, but the video speaks to some of those objections to overcome them through sequential marketing. So there's lots of different ways that we work with the brands, but it always starts with meeting with them, having a conversation about their customers, coming up with a targeting plan together, and then generally running that campaign. We like to run it for 6 months. It takes time, takes several iterations for people to have touch points with a brand. We have a click-through URL. Once they see the video, they click on it. It can land on their web page. It can land on a web page with fill out this form to have more information or contact us, or it can land on the website right where their product or service is being sold. So lots of different variables that come into it. But that's how we start working with the brand. And I'll stop there because it's getting a little bit lengthy. But
yeah, I totally get it. So I was thinking, as you're talking about how it takes 6 months, and particularly with this, any kind of advertising takes time and patience and budget. Let's say I'm a brand and I come to you and I want results within a month, like big results. I've got big expectations. How do you reassure a brand that their budget and the required patience to see results could take much longer than 1 month? It could take 6 months. It could take a year or more.
So especially when working with smaller brands or companies that haven't been around as long and may have a smaller marketing budget, oftentimes I'm asked the question, well, what are the exact results going to be? And what is the return on investment? And it's oftentimes a difficult question to answer because there are many, many variables. What's your click-through URL? What's your website look like? What's your follow-up once they actually click through and they get to your website? What if they do fill out a contact us form? Does that take you 12 hours, 24 hours, a week to get back to them? How is your product or service priced within the market? Is it competitive? Is it less competitive? Are we targeting high-income household, low-income households? Can the people that we're targeting afford your product? And that's part of our job to make sure that we can do that. But also, do you have a long-term view? Are you looking truly to raise brand awareness and brand recognition? If you're not, then we may not be the best company to work with. But also, anybody who's ever been in sales for longer than a few months knows that I can't just call somebody and tell them about my product or service once. Generally, that sale doesn't happen until after 7 or 8 interactions. Why would it be any different on the internet? In fact, sometimes it takes more because they're seeing this video. But we believe in utilizing video, the power of sight, sound, and motion to really help brands and agencies tell that brand story. But oftentimes people will just watch the video, they consume that information, it's in their head, and they may not take action until Christmas time. You know what? In 3 or 4 months, that seems interesting. Christmas is only 6 to 8 weeks away right now.
Yeah.
But, oftentimes, they don't have a reason to take action until they're ready for that. So it may not be through a click through on that video. It may be that they wrote it down or they remembered it or they saw that video 10 times over a couple month period. And then the next year they walk into your store or they go to your website and they make a purchase. So you have to allow a campaign to have the time to not only get to the right people, but also, and most importantly, for my team to be able to optimize it, to get it to the right people, to serve it multiple times to that right population, to that right target base, in that right location, in order to get them to move and to convert.
Completely. Well, and it sounds like, too, it's experimentation, I would imagine, at the beginning, right? I mean, you don't know right off the bat, correct me if I'm wrong, as you kind of go through a brand discovery phase and figure out who the customer is, what platforms or where on the internet you need to target these video ads and content, but you have to experiment with those customers and where exactly they are. Is that what you really have to do?
Yeah.
Advertise?
Experimenting seems like a little bit of a loose word.
Yeah.
The people that are on my team that are running these campaigns and optimizing these accounts have years and years of experience running
Totally.
Thousands of campaigns. And so rather than experimentation, I would say A and B testing. So let me give you an example. We worked with a nonprofit recently that was helping veterans and veterans' families. And then we also worked with a company called Combat Flip Flops that sells not only flip-flops, but some other clothing items to anybody, any of the population. They were actually on Shark Tank, but they sell it mostly, their target audience is veterans or households that have veterans in them or the spouse of a veteran. So what they did is they came up with 2 different videos. Actually, the nonprofit did, as well as Combat Flip-Flops. But specifically, Combat Flip-Flops came up with 3. We had a 30-second and 2 15-second videos. One was kind of product, and then they also give back to their community. So toward nations. For example, they help women in Afghanistan get education, a certain amount of their profits. So one was, hey, product, and by the way, we give back. So it was kind of the whole brand story. Then one video focused more on product, and then one video focused more on that giving back. Then we targeted those videos to not only veterans and veterans households in warm climates where they would want to buy flip-flops because it's the end of the year, but we also targeted some of those videos towards people that would be likely to donate to third world countries, people that would be likely to donate to veteran nonprofits. And we have those data sources, right? And so we can look at, oh, wow, we're really getting a lot of engagement with this video, with this population, but we're not here. So we can adjust that advertising spend. So there is, I guess you could call that experimentation. But generally, we have a pretty good sense of who the customers are, or the actual brand does. And so we have a pretty good place to start. But it does take, every week, our campaign gets better and better because we are continuously optimizing. So,
well, yeah, it's definitely purpose-filled. Yeah, I mean, experimentation, like you said, it being a loose term, could be experimenting with not knowing what outcome you want versus A/B testing or something done with purpose. You actually know the outcome you're working towards. So I totally get what you're saying with, I mean, you guys with your user experience gear more towards, having a purpose in mind and an outcome that you want from your testing.
Yep, absolutely. It's a mix of science and art, to be honest, and really knowing our platform and how the results react because of our experience with the multiple campaigns that we've ran. So we know that if we're really optimizing for something called like the AVOC score, that means audio and visual upon completion, that's a really high standard. So there's the other standard that the IAB, Interactive Advertising Bureau, has as a standard for viewability, right? It means that half the video has to be on the screen for 2 seconds. Well, to me, that's a pretty low standard to count as a viewable. Like, oh, people had the chance to view that. Although they did, we really like to optimize towards higher scores. So 100% of the video on screen, 100% of the time with audio on, and watch it all the way through. So those are 2 different ends of the spectrum. We've got lots of different ways that we optimize, and for some campaigns, different metrics are better to optimize towards. But as you can see from this simple example, it would seem that optimizing towards, we want people to see the video all the way through, would be the best. But sometimes that's not the best for every campaign. Sometimes it's different, and we have different media size players, small, medium, large, etc. And all of these variables are different, whether it's on mobile, web, mobile app, connected TV, desktop, social media, etc.
Mm-hmm. Completely. And so with speaking about using video specifically versus other forms of content to target to customers, how do you go about sourcing the right video and creating custom videos to then target towards those customers? You guys use your own agency? Is it in-house, or do you usually contract based on the type of video that needs to be created?
So I appreciate you asking that question, Dallin, because oftentimes during our initial engagement with a customer or a client, we get asked that question. So we can work with a client in a multitude of different ways. And what I mean by that is, if they already have video content, they already have a 30-second video and a 15-second video, awesome. That it makes it actually easier for us. Our bread and butter, our expertise is really that, focusing on that video distribution and getting your brand story told to the right people. But we do have the capability to either take content that you've created, and you might have 30, 40 minutes of content, of mixed content. We can take that, we can edit it down and create a 30-second and 2 15-second videos for you. Or we can take a video that you have and edit it and adjust it. There's little tips and tricks. So for example, through different platforms, sometimes audio is automatically on. Sometimes you have to click it to get audio on. So we always recommend making sure that subtitles are on the video, or there's graphics that depicts exactly your brand story if the volume's off. That's just one example. Also, you want your logo to be in the beginning and the end. You want some contact information up there. You want your website kind of to be on the bottom part, so that even if people don't click on it or they don't watch it all the way through, they still consume that information. They know how to get in contact with you. But we do not do it in-house, although, if you go to our website, it looks like we do. We have a very close network of partners that we work with on the video production side, that you would work through us. We'd have that done. And in often cases, you wouldn't even know that there's a third party involved. Unless you wanted to, we could link you up directly, depending on how complex that video production requirements are. Or you can use your own video production team. Really, we don't have a preference.
Yeah. Well, and, that's an interesting thing too about video advertising, is that the scale or production quality of, the image or the video, obviously it's important for professionalism purposes, but, you find so many campaigns that it doesn't matter how massive of a budget may have been. For example, like Shot an iPhone campaign series, but done by Apple. Probably, sourcing that content from their users, their consumers, probably wasn't that costly of a budget, but it was the whole campaign behind it and the back end and developing it and the advertising that went into it that made the campaign that more effective. Is that it was either one collaborative with multiple forms of people involved in the campaign, but also it came down to the advertising and the ability to tell a brand story, whether it was shot on the best camera available or shot on something simple. It depends, I think, on the distribution. I think so much, and you talked about also the art and the science of things. I think I may have brought this up too when we met at the conference, but I think so many, whether you're a brand or a creator or supplier, there's a disconnect oftentimes between wanting to focus too much on the art or focusing too much on the science, and then trying to find a way to marry the two together to make them work more seamlessly. But also, oftentimes you have to put more of a focus on the science side, because by doing that, especially if you're operating a business, you have to focus on the science and the data side in order to get results and an outcome. And because you find, I'm kind of a filmmaker, storyteller first and foremost, and so I kind of lean more towards that artistic side. But I think the need to have the science and the data side in place, that side that actually drives results, is completely necessary, if not even more necessary than the art. And you can put certain ratios of which side you need more, but I think the distribution and the advertising side definitely makes and breaks the result side or the sales side of a piece of content, be that video.
Absolutely. In fact, you remind me of something that we saw at that video conference in LA a few weeks ago. There were two different presentations during the breakouts, and one said, if content is king, then distribution is queen. And then another one said, if content is king, then distribution is the kingdom, which I found really interesting. So sometimes I get the question asked, Shane, what's more important, my video creative? Do I want something that's so amazing that's going to really just grab people's attention in 30 seconds and it's going to go viral and everybody's going to share it and everybody's going to click on it? Or do I want to make sure that let's just say we have a video that's okay, but it's distributed to the right people that are really interested in my brand or my service or my product. So I would make the argument that you can have the best video in the world, but if it's hidden in the depths of the internet and the black caves of the internet and not many people are seeing it or the wrong people are seeing it, then that doesn't have too much value to you. And then you can have an average, medium kind of marketing creative piece of video, and it's truly distributed to the right people at the right time that are in the right step along their customer journey to really convert and purchase, then I would say that there's potentially a lot more value there. So I believe that, there's a lot of people out there that try to create this amazing creative that's going to go viral. And I just think there's too many variables. And that art is such an art that it can be very difficult to do, and it can be very expensive. And so, depending on my brand, or if I was the owner of a company and depending on my size, I would say 99 out of 100 times, me personally, I would go with I would try to get my creative as great as possible, but I'd really focus on that distribution and who's seeing it along that customer journey.
Completely. Particularly if you're operating a business, let's say you're just the artist who cares just about the art. And, obviously you want some people to see it, but you care more about I'm doing this out of passion, I'm going to throw it out there on the internet, but you're not looking for a business objective. And by all means, you can focus solely on the art side. But I think if you're wanting to actually monetize and make it a business, putting more focus on the distribution side is something that more and more brands need to learn, but also tap into those skills and the professionals who do it, like Adtention. So anyways, Shane, we can wrap this up, but I appreciate getting more of this. Oh, there we go.
Video still looks good.
Yeah, well, we're using your video anyways. We won't see me. This is a focus on you and Adtention, but I appreciate you doing this podcast. I think for more and more online brands to learn more about the advertising beyond just social, but social included, that Adtention provides services for is incredibly valuable. And I think tapping into more corners of the internet where customers exist could even increase profits, the bottom line, whatever sales, whatever the buzzword is for brands to really be profitable.
Why limit yourself to social media channels when there's other channels on the internet available? Agreed.
Totally. So I appreciate it. We should definitely stay in contact because those advertising chops that you guys provide over there in New York and Adtention just all over would be incredibly valuable for the brands that Content Supply supports.
Absolutely. And if anybody's interested in learning more about Adtention, again, my name is Shane Schmutz, Schmutz. I'm one of the co-owners and also the director of sales. You can find more information on our website, www.adtention.com. That's ADTENTION.com. And then our contact information is on there as well. Appreciate your time, Dallin. Thank you.
Sweet.
And, look forward to staying in touch. If I can be helpful in any way, reach out at any time, man.
Yeah, for sure, Shane. Hey, appreciate it.
So we mentioned content and brand building throughout this episode. If you're overwhelmed with running your business and you need more content, especially an ongoing constant supply of content that's custom, all in order to take your brand to the next level, then make sure to learn more and check out our website of Content Supply at contentsupply.io. So thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you on the next episode.